everybody. I would like to open the meeting of the December 15th Issaquah Human Services Commission meeting. And thank you for joining us today. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the Human Services Commission webpage and available for viewing. Just as in recent past, we are asking folks in our discussion tonight to speak clearly and pause frequently when you are speaking, because folks may be listening to a recording or maybe joining us on the phone. And if you can, try to mute your microphone when you're not speaking. And I think other than that, we're ready to go ahead and do a roll call of attendees. Hannah, do we have any excused absences for today?
We do have Lucrecia in attendance as an attendee tonight, and we do have Anna who is still trying to get on right now.
Okay. Thank you. So Lucrecia is here.
Is in attendance, but as an attendee.
By phone. Okay.
By phone. Thank you. By the audio. Thank you.
By phone.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding what that means, an attendee. Does that mean something different than if I was on video?
You're by phone. Sorry, we just clarified that.
Okay, got it.
So you're not on video screen because you're on phone. Yes.
Hannah, should I go ahead and do a roll call, or do we have the information that we need about who's here and who's not?
Yes, I think we have the information on my end.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. So hopefully folks have had a chance to refer to the packet that was sent out prior to today. Before we get into our item number 3, which is approval of the minutes, Hannah, do we have any public comments for today, or folks from the public who would like to listen in or make a comment?
No public comments at this time.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the meeting of November 17th, 2021. I would like folks to scan through the minutes which were included in your packet, and please signal to me either verbally or raising your hand if you have any suggested corrections or edits. I'll give a minute or two for that. Okay, so Hannah, I am seeking approval by unanimous consent of the minutes as presented for the meeting of November 17th, 2021. And seeing no corrections or edits, I believe that we are approved as submitted. So thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
And then I believe that takes us to the next item on the agenda. Sorry, I'm just losing my place here. Which is a staff report presented by Monica and Hannah.
Thank you very much, Susan. Good evening, commissioners. This is Monica Negrilla. I just have a couple of brief updates for you from Mayor Polly and City Council. The first update is from the December 6th regular council meeting. These are updates that we provided that are related to human services. The December 6th council meeting, the City Council approved a grant that was awarded to the Issaquah Municipal Court by the Washington Administrative Office of the Court. And this grant would support the community court, which was launched earlier this year. This is an alternative to the traditional court system, and it is a problem-solving court, and the model aims at reducing recidivism by supporting individuals with low-level crimes in accessing social services and treatments and other programs that they may need as an alternative to jail. The grant provides funding for a part-time case manager who will assist participants in navigating the social services systems in place. while also working with community providers to ensure that resources are available for those who participate in the community court. So our human services staff, Marisol Visser, who you might have met at previous meetings, she will take on this role and assist with case management needs that support the community court. And my second update related to news from City Council meetings. At the same meeting on December 6th, City Council approved an agreement with HopeLink for low-income households water assistance program. This is a federal program that uses federal funds, and it provides emergency assistance to low-income households who are either disconnected or are at a risk of being disconnected from water utility services. And the program provides up to $2,500 for a water utility bill arrearages on behalf of eligible households impacted by COVID-19. And in your packet, you have a link and the phone number on how to apply for the program. If anyone has any additional information, feel free to contact us, but also feel free to spread the word to others who may be interested in this program. And I think that concludes our staff report for tonight. And also just a note, the City Council is in recess until the new year. Thank you.
Thank you. Hannah, anything else that you wanted to add there?
No, at this time we didn't have any staff updates to include.
All right. Well, thank you. So moving on to the next item on the agenda, we've got some very interesting and robust topics coming up in the Human Services Vision with proposed revisions and the draft Human Services Strategic Content Review. So I guess without further ado, we'll turn it over to Hannah.
Great, thank you, Susan. So Monica here is going to share our PowerPoint for the presentation. Thanks, Monica, I appreciate it. Alrighty, so what we are stepping into is our human services. We're looking to revise our current human services vision statement. That's our purpose for this evening, and to have a discussion on that. Next slide, please. So a little bit of background and some definitions that can help shape this conversation. So the Human Services Vision, it was last reviewed by the Human Services Commission in 2017. And so we are revisiting it here in 2021. The vision statement is really just our hope for Issaquah. And what is a vision statement and what is the purpose? It explains the human services objectives for the future. It should state where we are today, what goals we have for the community, and how we plan to reach those milestones. To help us, let's just take a step back and look at the City of Issaquah's vision and mission statement. So the vision for all of City of Issaquah is here. Issaquah thrives as a welcoming community, creating a sustainable legacy for future generations that honors its rich history and passion for the natural environment. The mission is fostering a safe and vibrant, livable, and inclusive community through effective stewardship and quality public services. So as we look at our current human services vision, we state that Issaquah strives to be a sustainable and healthy community where every person is important and where meeting basic human needs is a shared responsibility between individuals and the community. So as we reframed it, we provided a proposed revised draft statement, and this is what we're looking at. Issaquah is a welcoming, inclusive, and equitable community with a broad range of social services and programs where every person is essential and where meeting basic human needs is a shared responsibility. So why are we revising this statement? We want to update that reflects our current human services functions We want to update it that reflects our future goals for human services. And we want to have a timely integration with the work of the Human Services Strategic Plan. As many of you know, we are working on our strategic plan, and we want to use what we have learned in that process to be a part of our vision. So what our options are for tonight, we are looking at either one, we can revise the current statement with the recommended changes. We could either two, do not revise, so we can keep the original statement, or we would like to have a discussion, and if there's proposal for changes to the revised statement, we would like to also look at that. So we would like to spend a little bit of time of having a discussion and brainstorming. So with that, might be helpful if we, if you don't have it already in front of you, you may just want to have a visual of looking at the vision statement, especially for comparison. But yeah, we wanted to open up discussion for thoughts on the proposed revised vision statement, and if there's any questions or comments. Hi, Claire, I see your hand there.
Sorry, I can't find the chat button anymore, so I apologize for the old school way I've raised my hand there. This is Claire Hansen, and I guess looking at this, I was a little thrown off because I'm used to vision statements being cast into the future, like this is where we're going, or where we want to see ourselves in 3 years or 5 years or whatever the term is. And so it threw me off a little bit, and it made me made me think that it was the mission statement, not a vision statement. So I guess I was wondering why that might be, that it's projected into the present instead of into the future. I was just curious about that.
May I jump in with a clarifying question?
Yeah.
What about it makes you think that it's projected into the present?
Yeah, thank you. It states what Issaquah is instead of saying, you know, our vision of the future is X.
Right.
I guess it doesn't intentionally make reference to that it's a vision. It's a way of, I don't know, aspiring to where we want to move to in the future. Or
Oops. I think we might have lost you there for a moment. I think we lost you there for a moment, so I think we missed the last part of what you mentioned, Claire.
oh, that's okay. I just the fact that it states, I guess I'm used to a vision statement being more, you know, we will be equitable, welcoming, inclusive, with a broad range of social services. This is what we will be. And that doesn't necessarily mean that that's not who we are now, but it's kind of like what we believe about what we're reaching towards. Or that's what I think of when I think of a vision statement. So that was my comment.
That's very, very helpful. Thank you for that. I think the reason why we put it as a present, because I think it's a stronger statement, that that's what we want Issaquah, and so kind of like we see ourselves already there. I think similarly, it's the city's vision. It's used at the present time, but it is a vision of what we want Issaquah to be. Don't believe that we are there yet, but we want it. So it's more like as a stronger, like Issaquah is. But if we can also put that Issaquah will be, to me, it makes it a little bit of a more optional, where if you put it just in the present, like although this is our vision for what we want Issaquah to be today, tomorrow, in the future, it makes it more stronger that it is, and it's not that will be sometimes in the future. That being said, though, that's why I think it's up for discussion, and then we would love to hear other options and alternatives and any ideas that you have to make it a strong vision, but also like a belief that it's not just something that it may not happen. Like, I think that's kind of like, not sure if I'm explaining it right. I think like by putting it into present, it's like, we know this will happen, right? but yeah, thank you. Great. Yeah, great idea and suggestion. Would love to hear what you as a commission propose.
Yeah, thank you for that, Claire. I see Lucrecia has her hand up, so I want to open the conversation for Lucrecia. And then I did see Susan, and then Pat will have a comment.
And Trish had a question.
Sorry, Trish, I missed you. I'm so sorry.
This is Lucrecia speaking. I had the exact same question as Claire. I think what throws it off is that that the original or the current vision is Issaquah strives to be, which is what I'm also used to seeing, and the proposed state Issaquah is, meaning it already is welcoming, inclusive, and an equitable community. If that were to be true, then we would be done with the work. And so I guess that's kind of where I'm coming from as well. We are providing a broad range of social services and programs, and we do believe that every person is essential. So I think that there are two parts that somehow need to be separated as what we're striving for, in my opinion, would be to be more welcoming of everyone, be inclusive and equitable, while recognizing that we do offer a wide range of social services programs and that we do believe already that every person is essential and that we are committed to meeting the basic human needs as a shared responsibility. So I think if there is a way for someone who is good at wordsmithing to separate those two things as the aspirational part and the part that we're already accomplishing, that it would clarify and, in my opinion, make it stronger.
Thank you so much for that comment. Yes, I think we can definitely incorporate that. It makes a lot of sense. Trish, I missed you earlier, so Trish, I want to ask you.
Every time I've been in discussions about mission and vision statements, I've always wanted to backtrack a little bit. What is the difference between a mission, a vision statement, and a mission statement? Can somebody help me with that? I guess Claire or whoever. I saw Claire raise her hand.
The mission is the heart of it. You know, the mission is the reason you exist, right? It is your core, you know, what drives us into being, what propels us into the work is the mission.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
the vision is where we're going, right? And then the values that are sometimes organizations also have values, and that's kind of like behaviors that the organization will abide by, you know, integrity, compassion, whatever, right? So the mission is, this is why we do what we do, right? And it can be, you know, our mission is to end poverty by 2025. I mean, it could be short, right? But it's what compels us, what draws us together. And the vision is where we're going.
Okay, thanks.
I think that's a great description, Claire. Thank you for stepping in. Okay, I'd love to hear from Susan next.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to add just something on a slightly different dimension, even though I can definitely, resonate with the comments that I'm hearing so far. I thought that the first phrase, Issaquah is a welcoming, inclusive, and equitable community, I felt was a little bit too much of an overlap with the overall city. To me, that's kind of broadly captured in what the city is, and it doesn't really tell me much about what the Human Services Commission or the Human Services function really does. So I'd like to see this maybe a little bit more specific and kind of, I know that Issaquah is welcoming, equitable, and inclusive, or aspires to be. And then, okay, so now tell me about the human services component of that. And so I don't really have an answer to that, but that's kind of what I would like to see. And then I Okay, so, and then I'd like to maybe challenge the where every person is essential and where meeting basic human needs is a shared responsibility. I think those are great. I just don't know, again, if they represent what we are and what we do as a human services commission or as a human services function. So they're not like bad or wrong. It's just that, are they as close to where we would like to plant the flag about who we are and what we do? Like, well, of course, every person is essential. I mean, I don't know, like, what are we trying to argue against? And then meeting the basic human needs is a shared responsibility. Okay, so is that what we do? Is that really what are we like a partner with organizations to make sure that every basic human need is being met? Maybe that's the core. So I'd just like to throw those ideas out in case they spark other thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those comments, Susan. Really good points there. Okay, I would love to hear also from Pat next.
Thank you. I think a little bit of what I wanted to say has been said by both Claire and Suzanne. So the vision is aspiration. What exactly are our goals in a way that we can use it as an aspiration to craft or to draft our mission, right? In terms of, yes, we would like for every basic human needs to be met, right? That's one of our aspirations, but are we actually how are we going about that? Maybe that will help us if we bring out the how, and then we can say maybe you know, a city where nonprofit organizations are empowered to support basic human needs. I'm just saying anything here, right? And as for, I had one question about the sustainability. I just wanted to understand, out of curiosity, we had a sustainability piece there in the last mission, and what drove it away? Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Monica, sorry, did you have a comment or response?
I can offer at least a partial answer to Pat's question, if that's okay. So as mentioned earlier by Hannah, the vision, the current vision was actually adopted by this commission in 2017. So I know some of you might have been there when you decided on the vision, and we are proposing changes and small revisions to it. One response to your answer, in the past, the human services functions of the city were in the sustainability department, and so the sustainability part came from that piece. Our intent with proposing a vision of a city where we strive to be more equitable, inclusive, and welcoming, it is because at all of the departments at city level, we are striving to do that, and especially more so in human services, where we are also having the equity functions, the community equity functions of the city. So that's kind of like why we added that piece in there. So on one end, as a city in each department, we strive and we want to strive to be more inclusive, more welcoming, more equitable, more so also in human services. So I think that's kind of like where that is. And so kind of like to also answer a little bit one of the comment that Susan made, I think our intent and proposal was to answer to that, how is we added that piece, because yes, like it is a shared responsibility, and our role with human services, it is to partner with the nonprofit organization. So that's why we put that strong network of community partners, right? But again, it was just kind of like our thoughts on like what we thought, like, okay, where we want to be more equitable, inclusive, and welcoming. We want to have a strong network of social services partners, and we still believe that basic human needs should be a shared responsibility, right? And then with all of that, though, we do really strongly so want to hear from you, like, what else can we do to make it more human services and yet still keep it at that high level as a vision, and not go into the very details for either mission or values or like, yeah. So yes, very, very good comments so far. And definitely we can certainly take all of that and try to tweak it more. And if you have ideas for specific things, what to add or include, we would love to hear. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks, Monica. Sarah, are you ready to speak?
Yes, I just wanted to agree with, I agree that Issaquah is a strong statement, but it I also don't think it's appropriate for a vision statement, because if it is, then we have no job. And so to cast vision of what we should be, it should be future facing. I also wanted to add from the discussion, my question, I guess more of a question, is why don't we say Human Services Commission in the vision statement, if that's, because right now it is broad and reflecting of the city. So to me, it would make sense to say, and the Human Service Commission is, part of a broad range of programs, just to make it so it doesn't sound like it could apply to any of the other commissions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. All right, next we have Trish.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys were expecting this much feedback, but because we could spend the whole 90 minutes on this maybe. And this might be too much, but what is the city's vision? I would like to see the city's vision next to what we are proposing or want to come up with. Is that easy to put your hands on, the city's vision statement?
Yes, I'm going to share my screen again, and we had it in one of the slides, but when you have the slides, it's sometimes hard to see it.
City vision is in one of the slides you just showed us?
Yeah, so we showed the city's, sorry, I'm sure, I have the wrong slide up. We shared as an example the city's vision and also like the Human Services vision, the current one and the proposed one.
Yeah, it's 2 slides up in the packet from the proposed draft statement.
Yeah. So, oh, and I'm not sharing any longer. Apologies for that. I'm not sure if you can see
the
slide. So this is the city's vision. So the city, the Issaquah thrives as a welcoming community, creating a sustainable legacy for future generations that honors its rich history and passion for the natural environment.
Oh, you know what? I wasn't keeping track of things. And then you showed us, after this vision statement, you showed us the current Human Services vision and then the proposed one, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I wasn't keeping track. Okay, got it. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Okay, and then I see that Sarah, in addition to her earlier comment, would also like to see the commission's mission statement. Yeah, I don't think there is one, right?
Yeah, we don't have one specific for the commission, so we have for the human services functions for the human services.
Yeah. And then Claire, do you have a comment question?
Sorry, one last comment from me on this, I promise. I love some of the words and phrases that you have in here. I just want to make sure that that's clear from me. And I was thinking, I like that you mentioned that you partner with a broad range of social services and programs. And I would really want to bump that up. You empower, partners, and work with your partners so that every person in Issaquah is valued and treated with dignity. And therefore, the Issaquah Human Services Commission works to ensure that Issaquah is a welcoming, inclusive, and equitable community. So I really like that. I think where every person is essential is great, but I feel like it's most important that we say that, each person is treated with dignity and respect. And maybe that's where you were going with essential. But I love the statement about dignity. I really value that. And I just, from what I've seen in the last, I know the first year I was on the commission, we were really focused on equity, so we weren't necessarily doing the regular work that the commission does. But it seems like in the past 4 months, we've really focused on listening to partner organizations and getting to know them and understanding the situation of people who are living here on the East Side. And so I feel like that's, I guess, a part of this statement that I would lift up. You know, we listen, we learn, we empower, you know. And then the other thing I was going to say is I think this is sort of related to Trisha's comment. As I look up at that 2 slides, I think the city's confused on what a mission statement is and what a vision statement is as well, because the city's mission statement should really be their vision and their vision statement should really be their mission. So that's, I mean, that's only my, like, when I look at those things, that's what I see. And so that makes it hard. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Claire. Yeah, really appreciate those suggestions.
Hannah, could I just ask to see if any folks who have not had a chance to offer comments? Manny, I don't know if you want to say anything. Jaime, I'm not sure if we have Anna here. Any other ads?
Yeah, this is Manny.
Hi, Manny.
Hi. Yeah, I was looking at your definition here of what a mission statement was, and I agree with what everyone is saying. And taking that definition to, are we fulfilling what the definition is actually saying? You know, and I guess that's my main concern is that you take the definition that is here, mission statement explains human services objectives for the future. You know, is that what we're saying in that mission statement? And then the next part of that is it should state where we are today and the goals we have for the community and how we're going to get there. I think the main thing I see is missing is the plan to reach those millstones and how we're going to get there. So I totally agree with what everyone is saying. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Manny. And then Jaime, it looks like you may have stepped away, but wanted to offer an opportunity to share any comments or asking questions.
No, I'm calling through my phone, so I'm trying to look at the PowerPoint. I agree with what people are saying. I think it's the missions it drives your work. So when in doubt, you go back to your mission, like why you do it. So, and I think it's okay to spend some time on it. You know, I think the mission, the vision, the values, those are all, you know, I know sometimes we can get so easy, let's just figure it out and then move into the work. But what I've seen is that you always go back to the mission. So if the mission is not like where everyone's like, hey, I'm 100% behind this, it can create some fractures. Because I'm saying that even from within my work here is like our mission's been 5 years and it's already kind of outdated. So I think it's always good to look at the mission because that's what really drives the work. You know, so when you look at like our mission, what does that look like when, you know, homelessness comes? Does that match our mission? Or how we serve immigrant refugees, how does that serve our mission? When we look at helping kids out, where does that serve, right? So I think the mission has to involve all those populations and also too, like the why, like why it's important for us. That's just to me, I've seen it where, you know, this is my second meeting joining, and I would say it's okay to go slow on the mission. It's that impactful when it comes to funding and also to the community. Like, here's what we stand for. So that's just my feedback. I would probably spend some time on this one actually.
Okay, we're not discussing the human services mission statement, correct? Because there isn't one, right?
That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. This is for human services. for our vision statement for just human services, not necessarily human service mission. So yeah, I mean, I think everyone here made some really valid points. We really do appreciate everyone's input, feedback, and I think you know, I just ask that maybe spend some time, think about it. If any key words, do some wordsmithing, or just look at our values and what stands out to you for the city of Issaquah. If anything really comes to mind, please email Monica and I. We really do plan and want to incorporate all of your input and work in this. And so, yeah, we can revisit this. It sounds like it might be a helpful conversation to continue. So thank you all again for your comments. And then yeah, Trish.
Well, just a quick comment, then piggybacking on what Jaime said, would there be merit in the Human Services Department coming up with a mission statement?
Yes. Yeah, and that's something maybe we can do some like brainstorming together as a commission team to really just figure out for our commission, what is our mission and what is our vision? And we can, that's a great idea. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think that'll help kind of guide us all in that direction. So thank you again. Yeah, appreciate the comments. We value the input, and we will put those into place. I think that concludes this portion of our agenda, Susan. So I'll give it back to you.
Great. Well, I'll actually send it back to you for the next item on the agenda, which is the draft of the Human Services Strategic Plan and the content review. So back to you and Monica. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. Great conversations. We so appreciate brainstorming with you and hearing your input. And so for the next item here on the agenda, we were hoping to, as you remember, we have been working on the Human Services Strategic Plan for quite a few months now. And as we are now working on putting the information together, we were hoping to hear from you and brainstorm with you further on some of the actual content. So tonight I was hoping to provide a high-level overview of the content as we are putting it together. And give me just a moment to arrange my slides here. There you go. I think you should be able to see a full screen right now.
Yes, we can, Monica.
Thank you. Okay, so for tonight, our hope is that we are going to review some of the content areas for the draft Human Services Strategic Plan, that we are going to hear some feedback from you on kind of like how we were thinking about applying an equity lens to the work completed so far. And then we'll talk a little bit about next steps as well. So as we go, there are 3 questions that we have for you tonight. Are we in the right direction? As you're going to hear more about where we are with the content. Are the content areas that we are going to present in just a moment comprehensive? Are they clear? Are they understandable? Then we are going to talk about the equity lens. I switched the order there, but not the numbering. Who are the communities most impacted? Does our approach reflect our commitment to equity and social justice? And then last but not least, the goals, and you also had in your packet an additional exhibit that gives you more details about the goals. Are they reflective of the community needs? Is there anything missing? So with that, I'm going to go to the first area, and I'm going to go over the content areas that we have so far for the strategic plan. Again, just as a brief reminder, we started this process back in May, June, with an extensive community engagement. We did interview surveys. We heard from the community. We listened. We really tried to get a good feel for what the needs are in the community. We also worked with the community. We came back to you and also drafting some goals. And so now we are putting the content together. So for that content, the way we think about going is, of course, as any plan, we want to start with an executive summary at the top. Then we are going into this area of like describing who we are as a city. We are going to start with a high-level description of the city of Issaquah. What are the characteristics and demographics of the city? We are going to touch on our commitment to equity. Then we are going to dive deeper specifically in human services roles and functions. So kind of like that's the description of who we are as a city. Next, we are going to talk about what is the purpose of this strategic plan. We are going to provide an overview of the plan development, like how did we develop the plan? What's the community engagement process that we followed? What other methods did we use? So what's the methodology? We are talking about the guiding principles in human services for us as a team, as a staff. I'm seeing that if the slides can be made bigger. I think this is the biggest that I can go right now. You also have it in your attachments. I apologize if I cannot make it bigger for PowerPoint. It's full screen on my end. I hope you can follow in, if you cannot follow on the screen, that you can follow in your packet. And so the next, following the strategic plan overview, and we are going to go into a section of covering what we learned. And this is where like we are going to cover what are the community resources, but what are also the needs. So in the first part, we are going to provide a description of who are our community partners and what existing social services we have in Issaquah. And then after that, we dive into what are the needs, barriers, challenges that we noticed in the community. Following that, we are going to move into kind of like the future. So where are we going with this? What are our goals and what are our strategic actions? You're going to start with the vision. Where do we want Issaquah to be? Then based on the community needs, we are going to combine those and then describe the goals that are directly related to the needs in the community. Identify a strategic approach and specific steps and actions to take to address those goals. You're going to talk about a funding process associated with that and what partnerships and connections we are looking to form to help us implement the goals. And next, we are going to talk about how are we going to measure success? What are the next steps, in particular, any revisions to the plan, acknowledgements, and any extra information to that. So we can go, I can pause now for conversation on this, and then we can come back and then do the same for the next items, or I can just keep going. I'm not sure if you have a preference. I'm going to stop sharing just for a minute. You would like me to continue, finish, and then have conversation? Great. I'm going to go back to sharing. Okay. So moving on, discussion on equity lens. So we highlight our commitment to equity. So as the city's commitment to advancing equity, diversity, inclusion, and social justice, and with focus on, we recognize that through action-oriented initiatives that include not only self-evaluation, but also being accountable through the eyes of the various stakeholders and the communities that we serve. Again, our commitment, we highlight that we are committed to listening, to continuing the dialogue, but also to implementing change as a community. And again, our other commitment is that while we believe that we are welcoming and inclusive, we do recognize that this work needs to be continuous, and then we need to adapt to new targets. So these are some of the commitments to equity that we would like to call out. And then in the plan, our approach to incorporating an equity lens is, one, in human services, regardless, we focus on serving the population that has the most needs. So in Issaquah, for example, 7.7% of the population lives in poverty. So that is a focus for human services. So those are for us the populations that are most impacted. However, within that population that lives in poverty, we want to highlight the disproportionate representation of the non-white communities in the population that lives in poverty. And that, for example, in Issaquah, 77% of Issaquah residents who live in poverty are non-white. So we are calling that one out. And then we also call out the fact that there's a high representation of the Hispanic and Latino community, and the other race category. Know that those are the highest communities who live in poverty in Issaquah. And with those in mind, with those facts in mind, then we propose goals and interventions that help address the findings. So again, our question to you here is if we are going to believe that we are going about this the right way, or if you have other ideas for that. And then now next for the third part, this is how we would like to go about the strategic goals. And again, we go with vision statement, and we know that this is in draft format, and it's going to be, oops, I apologize. It's going to be reformatted, but vision should guide our work. And it's a foundation of what we do, right? Based on the community needs assessment that we conducted, we identified 4 areas of focus, 4 priorities for human services. One covers overarching community needs that we noticed in all areas of work. And the other focus areas cover, and these are things that you have heard from us before in a previous meeting: physical and behavioral health, housing continuum, which includes housing affordability and homelessness, language access and cultural services, and then other community services. Based on these focus areas, we identified goals, what we hope to accomplish. And we identified goals for each of these areas: expand the comprehensive network of social services in Issaquah that meet the needs of the community. All of these are in draft form. Expand access to physical and behavioral health services in Issaquah. Expand and support services that stabilize housing security and prevent homelessness. Identify and implement effective ways to respond to homelessness. Connect and engage with cultural community groups, support language access and cultural services, and then facilitate access to community services. These goals are broad general statements of what we intend to do. Next, we identify strategic approaches on kind of like how we will go about doing that. And next, we are going to identify specific actions. These are measurable steps that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time limited to accomplish those goals. So before I go, actually, I'm going to jump to providing you an example of what that would look like. This is just an example of one strategic action. For example, in focus area 1, which is overarching community needs, we provide an explanation on what that is. In this case, overarching community needs are patterns identified across all human services sectors in Issaquah. Some are unique and specific to our community, while others are largely impacted by the current human services field. So then instead of repeating the goals in each of the service categories, we just decided to group them under one separate focus area. And then the goal, as I mentioned earlier, to expand or extend the comprehensive network of social services needs located in Issaquah that meets the needs of the community. And we go about explaining how are we going to do that. That's our approach. And then we identify this is just one example of a strategic action. That would be create opportunities for regional service providers to expand programs to Issaquah, prioritizing behavioral health providers, services that help address homelessness, and culture and language specific organizations. Further, we go into detail to explain how we are going to support the creation of a physical resource center, for example, or we are going to identify rent subsidies that facilitate new service locations in Issaquah with focus on attracting behavioral health providers, agencies that respond to homelessness, culture-specific social service providers. We will actively engage at least 2 new service providers per quarter. When we are going to start, the start date when we are going to have the first revision and target date. Once again, this is just provided. It is going in a lot of details. It is provided just as an example for you to be able to kind of like think about if this seems like it's detailed enough and if it provides enough information. And then before I'm going to stop, I wanted to just pause for a moment. As we think about goals and how are we going to go about different interventions and action steps, it is helpful to talk about what are the roles that the city can have in human services, because then we just want to be careful on making sure that we have goals that we can control, that we can actually implement. So in human services, the city has a role of a policy framer. So we frame policies for city council to consider. We are a funder, so we don't direct services, right? We fund other nonprofit organizations to provide services. We connect residents to services. We connect service providers to other service providers. We advocate on behalf of service providers, and then we support them. Again, this just kind of like to give you the make it more clear on kind of like what's within our options to do. And so with that, going back to the questions that I asked earlier, based on what you heard, high level information, are we in the right direction? Is the content understandable, clear, comprehensive enough? So is it kind of like detailed enough at the same time, yet clear and understandable? Are we going about the right way for applying an equity lens? And the example of the goals, are they reflective of the community? Is there anything missing in those 4 areas? And with that, I'm going to stop sharing. So we would love to hear and have a conversation with you. What are your initial reactions?
May I ask, would you like feedback in any particular type of format or structure, or would you like folks to just kind of share their thoughts? You know, we can kind of go around the room. Or
yeah.
Okay.
Sharing your thoughts is okay. I'm not sure if you're thinking about something else or something in particular, Susan.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just we'll see how it goes. That's great.
Thank you.
It's like I think Pat was the first to have a question.
Thanks so much, Monica. This is a lot of work you are doing, and it's shaping up really well. Thanks for coming to us for feedback and to improve it. I think the first question I have, you probably said that, and I keep forgetting. Was there a strategic plan before, or we were within the city strategic plan before that?
Good question, Pat, and I should have mentioned that this is actually the Human Services first strategic plan.
Okay.
Yes, until this year, this is the first year when we actually have a Human Services division and the team. So yes, it is very initial, very first for Issaquah and Human Services. Great question.
That's what I thought. So do we know in the past we've probably either together with the city or another entity set up goals, and the reason I'm asking is you mentioned somewhere, which is very important to me, where we want to have measure our success, right? So in order to measure our success, I was wondering if in the past we've set up goals, do we know how we have achieved those goals and what were the challenges, so that this time around, and I see that you have smart, you have the smart functionality to check, right? And so this time around, we know, and we have timelines, we know how to check on our success periodically and not just at the end. We probably know indicators and checkpoints where we want to do that. So again, it starts with what is our experience in the past in monitoring those success, and how did we do? Thank you.
Another great question, Pat. So in the past, I'm not sure that we necessarily had goals for human services. Again, human services functions in the past were reduced to one staff who was managing grants. And so that's why we didn't have a formal way to really formalize our goals and have specific measurements. We were basically just gathering information from nonprofits. So that's why even in creating the goals, our hope is that actually the needs assessment is going to be our foundation. And that's why we didn't want to wait until 5 years, but we wanted to check in at the end of the first year and second year to see, to kind of like build that foundation. So then we compare how we are doing, right? Like, for example, if there's a goal of, and that's why it was important for us to like start, let's say, what are the existing nonprofit partners in Issaquah? So that's like a foundation for us, right? And then based on that, we identify that, well, great, we have nonprofit partners, great nonprofit partners who provide meals or basic needs services. However, it looks like in Issaquah, we don't have behavioral health partners, right? So kind of like that needs assessment is our foundation. So then if our then goal becomes, okay, we would like to facilitate expansion of services in Issaquah with focus on behavioral health partners, then I think one measurement, it's going to be, okay, at the end of the first year, how many new behavioral health partners do we have? And so then kind of like to then focus on that growth, since we don't have a baseline, right? At least that's how we were thinking about doing it, like start somewhere.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, definitely. So yes, we're doing the needs assessment, but also mapping of the resources that exist, so we can probably grow the resources to help us meet our goals, meet those needs. Okay, thank you.
No, thank you.
This is huge. This is huge. Yeah.
Yeah, Trish, it is. Monica and I are so excited to be a part of the community needs conversations, creating the strategic plan, the actions, the goals, the work that Monica and our team is doing is typically contracted work from a lot of other cities. Historically, that's what it's been. So to use, us who know our nonprofit, we're seeing, yes, it's a lot of work and it's huge, but we're the ones who we know our community, right? Rather than bringing somebody from New York or contractor somewhere else, we get to use our knowledge, our resources, our connections, and really highlight that.
Yeah. No, I'm fully, I think this is wonderful. It's just, I'm going to have to think about this for a while.
It's a good point. Yes.
Yeah.
We've been thinking about it for a few months now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And oh, go ahead, Trish. I apologize.
Yeah, this is Manny. This is amazing how he's putting this together. I'm totally impressed. I love the part about equity, with Issaquah is committed to listening to diverse ranges of opinions, and the fact that you added later that you're always looking at whether or not you're doing it right, and revisiting that. I think this is amazing. Well done.
Thank you, Manny. And with that, we also appreciate, and I also appreciate Trish's comment, and maybe perhaps this is what Susan was, perhaps maybe you were thinking about that at the beginning. I know it is a lot, and I know that there's more to come. And so I often find that it's so much easier to sleep on it and then think about something, hear it, read it, and then come back to it later. So one thing that we didn't put on the slide that I wanted to address, like, it's kind of like, what are the next steps? So please do feel free to think about it. And do feel free to please get in touch with us, email us with ideas that you have. And then we will also bring it back. We are now working on actually just writing the content. Once we have the content in a place where we feel comfortable sharing it, it's going to be in a draft format. We will send it out to the commission, and we will talk some more about it next month as well. We do have a touch point with city council in January as well. January 11th, we are going to city council at a study session to discuss, kind of like similarly as we presented today, to discuss the content, get their feedback as well. So we hope at that time that we will have more content to share both with you and with them. And then following that first study session, we hope to come back to you, to come back to the community to ask for feedback. So we are going to have the draft in a place where people can really read it, think about it. We are going to have some more meetings with our nonprofit partners so we can hear their feedback as well. And so then we hope then in February to come to you and then to go to City Council for an approval, for an adoption of the plan. So what I'm trying to say long-windedly is that we have about a month and a half time to read, think about, provide, tweak, and provide feedback on it. And that's, so again, I'm hoping that it's going to all fold in, because at the end of February, if we have it adopted, that's going to be right in time for us to release the grants in March. So then those who are going to apply for grants can use it as a tool to adjust kind of like their grant application and proposals to kind of like what the needs are in the community. Does that make sense? And kind of like how all it's going to start hopefully falling into pieces in place. Thank you. And yes, Claire, I see your hand up. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. I can't figure out on my phone how to type into the chat, so I apologize. This is Claire. I was thinking about two things. First of all, I totally echo what everyone's saying. This is excellent. I'm so excited to see it develop, and I love that you guys did it, because I think you're going to be the ones who are held accountable by it. So it really needs to be your work and not some random consultant coming in and telling us whatever. The other thing I was thinking about, I was thinking of two things that I just wanted to mention. I think it would be interesting in the goals if you had threshold language, you know? So like meets expectation, exceeds expectation, and then of course this isn't going to be the case, but does not meet expectation, right? Or even like with what you were discussing about the behavioral health and the other community organizations that you want to provide a greater footprint for, you know, assign some numbers, right? Like what's going to be that threshold? Is it going to be 2 organizations? Is going to be what we're going to call meeting the expectation? And then what's exceeding? Is it going to be 3 to 5, you know, so that you can really champion with where you land on that. I mean, I just think that would be so valuable, right? Instead of saying we met our goals, you'd say, oh, we had these 8 goals and we exceeded in 4 of them. We met all of them and we exceeded in 4 of them, or whatever. But I think that'd be really helpful. And the one reason I'm thinking about that is that I love the way the department has grown, and I just want you guys to be able to celebrate and reinforce how important it is that you've hired these people and that you're growing and meeting more needs, you know? So this is an argument for that. The other thing I was just going to say is, I like that you have that acronym in there about SMART, you know, specific, measurable, time bound, blah, blah, blah. And I would like to know, you know, in our next meeting, more about that measurability. What exactly, you know, do you plan to bake in on that? Because that's everything, you know, I mean, that is the ball game, right? So you can't celebrate that you've met it or didn't meet it if you can't measure it. So it feels like I would love to have in that draft an overview of, we're going to have an annual survey, or we're going to have, you know, through a grant application, we're going to be able to mine for this data, you know, or we're going to use this methodology, you know. So I just think that more information on that measurable piece will help us as a commission look carefully at what you've laid out here. So thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Very helpful feedback. Pat, I think you had your hand up as well.
Yes, I was actually saying I have the benefit that I'm reading on the, and I see that you actually attempt to do that in 1.1, where you say at least 2 providers, right? So you've started. It would be good to see for all of them. Yeah. And I had a comment actually earlier, and it's just at one point you were citing something in terms of what you were enabling. You say we fund, we connect residents and service, we advocate on behalf of service providers, we support them. And I was like, we can just from this, it will be interesting to capture the vision from these things that the human service is doing. I just wanted to say that.
Love that. Connecting them, right? That's great. Thank you.
I have a question. Monica, is the making of the strategic plan, did that request come from higher up in the staff? Did the mayor or did Wally ask for it? Or how did the initiative to do this start?
Oh, that is such a great question, and a little bit of a backstory to that. I think there was an intent to do a strategic plan actually a couple of years ago, back in 2019, before COVID. So actually in 2017, the city had the first community needs assessment. And then the next year, there was an intent to continue with the strategic plan. At that time, again, human services functions were in a different department, and the scope of that work was broader because it was focused on a healthy community strategy. And so then it had a broad scope. Then in 2019, we had an organizational restructuring. Human services functions got moved into a different department. Then COVID hit, so everything got paused. And so then now at the beginning of the year, still under COVID time, we tried to at least streamline a little bit and provide some focus to the work. Healthy community strategy, while it sounds very noble, it's also a little bit broad. And so we thought that if we are human services, let's just focus on human services. It seems more tangible. And so then that's why, like, it's a continuation of the work, but at the same time also a needed update to where we are as a community with COVID, what we need to do as a team now that we have a division, what will inform our work as a team. But also it's timely because then we have a new set of funding cycle that we are releasing. So then we are hoping that it's going to also inform that funding cycle. So all of these kind of like combined, it seemed like a natural step for us to, okay, let's do it this year. We have a team. Let's continue that work, but also streamline it and make it into something that's going to be useful for the team for the next 5 years, but also for the funding for the grants. Does that make sense in providing you that?
Yeah.
Background. Yes, thank you.
Thank you for providing that background.
And I didn't want to miss Susan. Yeah, Susan had a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Monica, did you have something else? Okay,
No,
thank you.
I think that was...
So just a couple of comments. So I, again, would like to add my congratulations, and you know, I have seen a little bit of this work in progress over the years, and I think it is so powerful and so crisp, and it's really been so needed in helping guide our work going forward. So I think it's just going to be so impactful to us as a commission, and so thank you again for getting us this far along. I think it's going to be very useful. A couple of like downstream questions that occur to me, and maybe just dialing ahead a little bit to the impact on the grant selection process. You choose the word expand in several of them, which I know implies an unmet need. I would love to maybe hear how that plays out, you know, with the city going forward, because we've long been in a bit of a conundrum and a debate about, do we take the funds that we have and do we spread them so that everybody gets a little bit, and so we can be sort of fair and equitable, and you know, this is the old version of equity, not the new version of equity, and I feel like there's kind of a little bit of a debate coming on that front. So if we can almost get this vision in the place where we want it to be, to almost then have it naturally fall out, here's how you're going to distribute your funds. If, you know, if it really says you need to really spend in all of these to do what, you know, Claire was saying, do the, you know, the different levels of performance. Like, I'd love to almost see that naturally fall out and not have it come back to like this group to debate that. I think that would be a really useful outcome.
Yes, thank you. That's another excellent comment, Susan. And that's our hope, that naturally, like you said, it's gonna fall in there. So like even right now, if our focus areas and that's kind of like the highest needs and priorities are behavioral health, the housing continuum, culture specific and language access, like those to me seem like the three highest needs, and those are the priorities, then I think naturally those should be the priorities for funding, with note that, okay, specifically for new providers, right? Like kind of like prioritizing within prioritizing. So 3 topics within that: focus on new providers, focus on stabilizing and still supporting existing providers, and then everyone else. It's not to say that it's not important, but it's probably going to be, like you said, I'm envisioning something like the priorities, then let's set aside a larger pot of money for the priorities to be able to be impactful, and then a separate pot for like those seed money for those things that we don't say that they're not important, but for in Issaquah, really we need this, so we are going to focus a larger pot of money on this, and then provide seed money, that peanut butter and spread that you're talking about, to the other organizations. That doesn't mean that we don't consider them valuable. We just know that we really have a dire need here in Issaquah, right?
Yeah, and I was part of a conversation the other day where there was an emphasis on sort of like accountability to our Issaquah citizenry. And, you know, that's essentially where this money comes from, you know, is all of us as homeowners, taxpayers, you know, people who live here, and a sort of an increasing desire to know that the city is being good stewards of that money and putting it in the right places. Now, the question is, of course, what are the right places? And that's, again, the work that you're doing and the work that the commission is doing. But there's also a little bit of maybe messaging that back to the community that needs to happen, that, you know, here's why we're choosing to put it in these areas, here's the impact that it's having, and here's the benefit that Issaquah experiences as a community. And I think that helps people maybe get around any concerns that they have. Well, like, well, my organization didn't get funded. And, you know, what about my ethnic group? And what about my, you know, social organization? And so the closer we can tie, I think, you know, all of us sort of know why we are where we are, but if we can almost like create the messaging as we go, and then I think it'll be really much easier to kind of like ultimately deliver, you know, to the community in appropriate ways. So thank you.
Thank you. Great points. Thank you.
Are there other folks we haven't heard from who would like to share their thoughts? Jaime, are you looking at the camera? Are you interested, or?
No, I thank you all for putting this great work to it. I think as I think if you mentioned, just applauding the effort around this work. So.
Did Pat have a comment?
Thanks, Trish. I've already shared a comment earlier. Thank you.
Okay, I just saw in the chat that you came after Susan.
How about, do we still have Lucrezia with us as well? Lucrezia, do you have any thoughts that you wanted to add?
Lucrezia, we do not have, I do have somebody else who just joined us. But I do not see Lucrezia anymore.
Okay.
1 minute. Yeah.
Or Sarah, I don't know if we've heard, Sarah, from you on this section or not. Oh yeah, Sarah's here. Yeah. Sarah, I think you're on mute if you wanted to say something.
Sorry, my video was lagging and just again, thank you so much.
I apologize. I had some technical difficulties on my end. I was trying to say that I got a message from Lucrecia. She had to drop off early. But then as Hannah mentioned, it seems like we have a new an attendee. And I'm not sure if perhaps with your permission, Susan, if it would be okay to allow her to introduce herself and see if perhaps she was just observing, or if it is late for public comments, I believe, but that's also something that you can entertain as a commission.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to unmute. Okay, I just unmuted you, Julian. Did you want to speak?
I'm just listening in.
Okay, hi, thank you.
Thank you and welcome. We also have in the attendee, we also have Alexandra here. She's an intern of the Human Services team, and she's also observing here tonight. Okay. So no other comments, it seems like, Susan and Hannah.
Okay, thank you. Monica, may I just ask for just one final point of clarification? So we've asked the commissioners to take this information back and think about it, see if there are any additional thoughts, reflections, observations, suggestions that come up. Will we have this as our topic in our first January meeting of the year? So will we pick this up sort of where we left off?
Yes, we will pick it up back in January, and then also as a third and final touch point in February as well. So you will have 2 more opportunities to comment and provide input before hopefully final adoption by City Council.
Thank you. And then also on the vision and mission conversation, you were talking about the steps that are going to happen. Will we have an opportunity at our next meeting to talk further about commissioners' thoughts on that?
Yes, certainly. That's another one we will bring back in January. And that's why I think our request from you tonight is, as you come up with ideas, please email them to us. It would be great to have ideas before our next meeting. So then at the next meeting, we can come back with a few other options based on your feedback. And so then to continue that discussion, we can, depending on how the discussion goes, we can have the vision mission discussion twice again, still January, February, or if we think that it's going well and we feel comfortable just at the meeting in January, then we can stop there. But for both of these, we do have still 2 more meetings and opportunities to provide feedback and input.
Thank you. And would it be reasonable to ask you or Hannah to send us a sort of follow-up email message about those sort of 2 thought exercises, so that and we know exactly what to do over the holidays? And it may also clarify, when you're looking for individual feedback suggestions from us, should we email you and Hannah directly and not the entire commission, or how would you prefer that?
Yes, that's a very good point. Yes, if you don't mind emailing us individually, and then we will gather all the feedback obtained from everyone, and we will summarize it and bring it back into the meeting and publicize it on the website as well. But yes, just to avoid a quorum during email communication, just please do it to us individually, and we will just share it back out with everyone and the public.
Excellent, thank you.
Yes, great questions and comments.
And then Trish, did you still have a comment that you wanted to share?
Well, I was just going to say, for those of you that haven't looked at the city's strategic plan, that's one thing I'm going to do between now and when we next meet. Or actually, I'm going to do it before I'm going to attend the study session. I encourage everybody here to attend the study session. And when you, instead of just watching on YouTube, I do know that it makes a difference to the city council members when they see all these people's names as attendees. So, I mean, I just find it very valuable to sign in during the meeting and being part of that energy during the meeting. Yeah, so I'm going to go back and review the city's strategic plan and then pull out elements that are specific to our mission. Yeah, so that's all.
Trish, thank you.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
I'm sorry.
I just said thank you very much. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess, Hannah, are we ready to move on to any other business or announcements?
Yes, we can move forward. And I will start us off with an announcement here. First, apologies for the technical difficulties and a huge thank you for your flexibility for using the attendee link tonight. We will be working internally to problem solve this, and individually with folks if they're having some issues. So more information to come. We do apologize for that. But again, thank you for your understanding and patience and flexibility. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other business from the commissioners? Okay, may I also ask just a quick reminder, the date of our next meeting? Anna,
Scheduled for Wednesday, January 19th at 6:30 p.m.
Excellent. All right, well, unless there's anything else, I think we will go ahead and adjourn at 7:57 p.m. The meeting of the Issaquah Human Services Commission for December 15th, 2021.